The night sky over Baghdad lit up with explosions on March 20, 2003. Missiles rained down as the United States launched what it called Operation Iraqi Freedom. Within hours, one of the most powerful militaries in the world had begun an invasion of Iraq. But the real question is not how the war started. The real question is why. Why did the United States decide to attack Iraq? Was it about weapons of mass destruction, terrorism, oil, unfinished business from an earlier war, or something deeper hidden inside global geopolitics? To understand this story, we must travel back decades, long before the bombs fell on Baghdad. In 1979, Saddam Hussein became the president of Iraq. He ruled with an iron fist, but during the 1980s, Iraq was not always an enemy of the United States. When Iraq fought a brutal 8-year war against Iran from 1980 to 1988, many Western powers quietly supported Baghdad because they feared the spread of Iran's revolutionary influence. Iraq emerged from that war economically devastated but militarily powerful. In August 1990, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, accusing it of stealing Iraqi oil and refusing to forgive war debts. The invasion shocked the world because Kuwait held enormous oil reserves and its occupation threatened the stability of the entire Persian Gulf. The United States quickly formed a massive international coalition. In early 1991, Operation Desert Storm began. Within weeks, coalition forces pushed Iraqi troops out of Kuwait. But the war ended without removing Saddam Hussein from power. Many observers later believed that leaving him in control planted the seeds of future conflict. After the war, Iraq faced harsh United Nations sanctions and strict inspections to ensure it was not developing weapons of mass destruction, including chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons. Throughout the 1990s, tensions between Iraq and the West grew. UN weapons inspectors repeatedly accused Iraq of hiding banned weapons programs. Saddam's government often restricted inspections, which increased suspicion. In 1998, the United States launched Operation Desert Fox, a 4-day bombing campaign aimed at weakening Iraq's military capabilities. Still, Saddam remained in power. At this stage, the relationship between Iraq and the United States had become a long standoff, full of distrust, sanctions, and occasional military strikes. But the situation would dramatically change after a global event that shook the entire world. On September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks hit the United States, killing nearly 3,000 people. The attacks were carried out by Al-Qaeda, a militant group based mainly in Afghanistan. In response, the United States launched a global war on terror. Soon, attention turned toward countries Washington considered potential threats. Iraq quickly appeared on that list. President George W. Bush argued that Saddam Hussein's regime might possess weapons of mass destruction and could potentially share them with terrorist groups. In 2002, Bush famously labeled Iraq part of the axis of evil, along with Iran and North Korea. But critics questioned the evidence. Intelligence reports were uncertain, and many international observers demanded stronger proof. The central justification for the 2003 invasion was the claim that Iraq possessed WMDs, chemical, biological, or possibly nuclear weapons. The US government argued that Saddam had previously used chemical weapons during the Iran-Iraq War and against Kurdish civilians, proving he was capable of doing it again. Officials warned that Iraq might be secretly rebuilding these programs. However, United Nations inspectors led by Hans Blix continued searching Iraq and reported that they had not found clear evidence of active WMD programs. Despite these uncertainties, the United States and its allies believed the threat was too dangerous to ignore. In March 2003, the United States, along with the United Kingdom and a coalition of allies, launched a full-scale invasion of Iraq. The military campaign moved rapidly. Within 3 weeks, US forces reached Baghdad. Saddam Hussein's government collapsed and his statue in central Baghdad was dramatically pulled down, an image broadcast around the world. Later that year, Saddam was captured while hiding near his hometown. He was eventually tried by an Iraqi court and executed in 2006. But the fall of Saddam did not bring stability. Instead of peace, Iraq descended into chaos. The sudden collapse of the Iraqi government and army created a dangerous power vacuum. Armed groups, militias, and insurgent organizations quickly filled the gap. Sectarian violence erupted between Sunni and Shia communities. Bombings, assassinations, and street battles became common across the country. One of the most alarming developments was the rise of extremist organizations. Out of the instability emerged Al-Qaeda in Iraq, which later evolved into something even more dangerous, ISIS, the Islamic State. The conflict turned into a long and costly occupation. Thousands of US soldiers and hundreds of thousands of Iraqis lost their lives. As years passed, one critical fact became clear: no active stockpiles of weapons of mass destruction were ever found in Iraq. This revelation triggered intense global criticism. Many analysts argued that the intelligence used to justify the invasion had been flawed or exaggerated. Others suggested deeper motivations behind the war. Some believed oil resources played a role, since Iraq possesses one of the largest oil reserves in the world. Others argued the war was part of a broader strategy to reshape the Middle East and expand American influence. There was also the theory of unfinished business, because Saddam Hussein had survived the 1991 Gulf War and remained a challenge to US power in the region. The debate over the real motives continues even today. The Iraq War reshaped global politics in many ways. It weakened Iraq's state institutions, intensified regional rivalries, and strengthened Iran's influence in the region. The conflict also damaged the credibility of US intelligence claims and created deep divisions among Western allies. Most importantly, the war changed the lives of millions of Iraqis, leaving behind years of instability, violence, and reconstruction. So why did the United States attack Iraq? The official explanation focused on weapons of mass destruction and the fear of terrorism after the 9th of November. But history suggests the answer is far more complex, woven from strategic interests, political calculations, intelligence failures, and the unpredictable consequences of war. What began as a mission to eliminate a perceived threat ultimately transformed the Middle East in ways few had anticipated. And even today, more than 2 decades later, the echoes of that decision still shape global geopolitics.